Lieutenant Marcus Chen stood in the observation bay of the Galactic Conservation Station, orbiting Theta Primaris 4, watching through the reinforced viewing window as three Cravati cubs tumbled over each other in the nursery below. Their thick, silvery fur rippled with each movement, and their 6 stubby legs scrambled for purchase on the smooth floor. Each cub was roughly the size of a large dog, with rounded ears that twitched constantly and enormous amber eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. "They're struggling with coordination exercises again," Dr. Velris announced, her mandibles clicking in what Marcus had learned was the sectoid equivalent of a concerned frown. The insectoid scientist's compound eyes reflected the soft blue lighting of the station as she gestured toward the cubs with one of her 4 delicate arms. "The neural development protocols suggest they should have mastered basic motor control 3 cycles ago." Marcus scratched his chin, studying the cubs. The youngest, whom the staff had nicknamed Tumble due to his constant falls, was attempting to reach a suspended toy. His front legs would stretch upward, but his middle and rear legs seemed to have entirely different ideas about what the body should be doing. The result was an awkward wobble that ended with the cub flat on his back, chittering in frustration. "Have you tried positive reinforcement beyond food rewards?" Marcus asked. Dr. Velris's antennae drooped slightly. "We have implemented 17 different reward systems across 12 species methodologies. The cubs show improvement with treats, but the moment the food is removed, the learned behaviors vanish. It's as if they cannot connect the action with the achievement itself." Marcus nodded slowly, an idea forming. Back on Earth, he'd volunteered at animal shelters during university. He remembered how powerful simple gestures of celebration could be, how a dog's entire demeanor would shift when greeted with enthusiasm and physical affection. The Galactic Council's conservation programs were scientifically rigorous and thoroughly documented, but they sometimes missed the smaller, simpler approaches. "Mind if I try something?" Marcus asked. Dr. Velris's mandibles spread in curiosity. "The protocols allow for experimental human methodologies. Your species has achieved remarkable results with Earth fauna. Proceed." Marcus entered the nursery through the decontamination airlock, the sterile smell giving way to something warmer, muskier. The 3 cubs immediately stopped their tumbling and stared at him with those enormous eyes. The largest cub, called Boulder by the staff, took a cautious step forward, sniffing the air with a snout that wrinkled adorably. "Hey there, friends," Marcus said softly, crouching down to appear less threatening. He extended his hand slowly, letting them investigate his scent. Tumble was the bravest, wobbling forward on unsteady legs to bump his fuzzy head against Marcus's palm. The fur was incredibly soft, like touching a cloud. For the next 20 minutes, Marcus simply played with the cubs, letting them grow comfortable with his presence. He rolled a soft ball across the floor, encouraging them to chase it. When Boulder managed to trap it between his front paws without falling over, Marcus felt a surge of excitement. "Good job, Boulder," he exclaimed, his voice bright with genuine enthusiasm. He reached out and gently patted the cub's head, ruffling the soft fur behind his ears. Boulder's eyes widened, and a deep, purring rumble emanated from his chest. That's when Marcus had the idea. The high five, humanity's universal gesture of celebration and achievement. It was simple, direct, and created an immediate physical connection between success and reward. He'd used it countless times with kids, with friends, even with the dolphins during a marine biology internship. "Okay, Boulder," Marcus said, holding his right hand up at chest height, palm facing the cub. "When you do something good, we celebrate like this. See?" He took Boulder's front right paw, the one that wasn't occupied with balance, and gently tapped it against his palm. "High five!" Boulder stared at him, head tilting in confusion. His ears swiveled forward, clearly trying to process this strange new behavior. Marcus tried again, this time using Boulder's paw to give himself a proper high five, making an exaggerated slap sound with his mouth. "High five! That's how humans say, 'You're awesome!'" Marcus grinned, hoping his enthusiasm would translate across the species barrier. He spent the next hour working with each cub individually. When Tumble managed to walk in a straight line for 5 full steps, Marcus raised his hand. "High five time, buddy!" Tumble stared at the raised hand. His front right paw lifted from the ground. Then, instead of reaching forward toward Marcus's palm, the little cub swung his paw directly into his own face with a solid smack. Tumble squeaked in surprise and sat down hard, looking confused and slightly betrayed. Marcus bit his lip to keep from laughing. "No, no, buddy, not yourself, my hand. You hit my hand." He tried again, but Tumble, apparently learning from his mistake, this time swung his paw in a wide arc that completely missed Marcus's hand and smacked into his own flank instead. From the observation bay, Marcus could hear Dr. Velris's clicking laughter through the intercom. "The cubs appear to be attacking themselves, Lieutenant Chen." "I can see that," Marcus muttered, trying not to feel discouraged. He turned to Mittens, the medium-sized cub with distinctive white patches on her paws. She'd been watching the entire exchange with keen interest. "Okay, Mittens, you're smart. You can do this." Marcus held up his hand. Mittens lifted her paw. Her eyes focused intently on Marcus's palm. She leaned forward, paw extending, and then at the last second, her trajectory curved and she bopped herself squarely on the nose. "Why do you keep hitting yourselves?" Marcus asked, exasperated but amused. Over the next 3 weeks, Marcus visited the cubs daily. The self-smacking continued with remarkable consistency. The cubs seemed to understand that the raised hand was important, that some kind of paw movement was required, but the connection between Marcus's palm and their own paw remained frustratingly elusive. "Perhaps the Cravathi neural structure is incompatible with symbolic gestures," Dr. Velris suggested during one of their observation sessions. "Their species evolved on a low-gravity moon. Physical coordination in standard gravity environments may require different cognitive mapping than Earth species possess." Marcus watched as Boulder attempted another high five and promptly smacked his own ear. "Or maybe I'm just a terrible teacher." "Your methodology is sound," Dr. Velris assured him. "Human training techniques have proven effective across 47 documented species. The Cravathi may simply be an exception." But Marcus wasn't ready to give up. He started observing the cubs more carefully, watching how they played together, how they communicated. That's when he noticed something interesting. When the cubs were excited or happy, they would often pat their own chests or faces with their paws. It wasn't aggression or frustration. It was their natural expression of positive emotion. The cubs weren't failing to understand the high five. They were succeeding at their own version of it. Marcus entered the nursery the next day with a new perspective. When Tumble successfully navigated an obstacle course without falling, Marcus raised his hand for a high five. As expected, Tumble lifted his paw and smacked himself in the face. But this time, Marcus mimicked the gesture, gently patting his own cheek. Tumble's ears perked up. He smacked his face again, harder this time, and chittered happily. Marcus patted his own face again, laughing. "You're celebrating in your own way, aren't you, buddy?" Over the following weeks, Marcus adapted his approach. Instead of trying to force the cubs to perform a human gesture, he learned to celebrate the way they did. When Boulder made progress, Marcus would pat his own chest enthusiastically while Boulder did the same. When Mittens mastered a new skill, they'd both bop their noses together in what became their shared victory ritual. The cubs' motor skills improved dramatically. They became more coordinated, more confident, and significantly more engaged with the training exercises. Dr. Velris documented everything, her scientific curiosity piqued by the unconventional methodology. "The cubs are exhibiting a 23% improvement in coordination assessments," she reported during a staff meeting. "More significantly, They're showing increased enthusiasm during training sessions and better retention of learned behaviors. Because they're not just following commands for food, Marcus explained to the assembled scientists, representing 6 different species. They're connecting success with celebration, with positive emotion. It doesn't matter if the celebration is a high five or a self-bop. What matters is that moment of shared joy after an achievement. A Varelian researcher, whose species resembled ambulatory fungal colonies, rustled thoughtfully. Your species places great emphasis on emotional connection, Lieutenant Chen. We had assumed this was a weakness in scientific methodology. Emotion and science aren't opposites, Marcus replied. Understanding how a species naturally expresses joy, pride, or excitement is just as scientific as understanding their neural pathways. Maybe more important, actually, because it's specific to them, not universal. Months passed. The cubs grew larger, their coordination improving until they moved with the grace natural to adult Cravathi. They still greeted Marcus with enthusiastic face slaps whenever he entered the nursery, and he still responded in kind, their shared ritual transcending the language barrier. The day finally came, when the cubs were deemed ready for release back into protected habitats on Theta Primaris IV. The conservation team gathered at the transport bay, watching as the 3 young Cravathi explored the specially designed carrier that would take them home. They have a 92% projected survival rate, Dr. Velrus announced, her mandibles spread in what Marcus now recognized as pride. The highest success rate we've achieved with their species. Your contribution has been significant, Lieutenant Chen. Marcus watched Tumble, no longer tumbling at all, gracefully navigate the carrier's multiple levels. I just taught them to celebrate. You taught them more than that, Dr. Velrus corrected. You taught our entire staff an important lesson. We had forgotten that conservation isn't just about preserving bodies and behaviors. It's about preserving spirit, joy, the things that make each species unique. The Cravathi don't give high fives. They give self-slaps. And that's perfect, because it's theirs. As the carrier sealed and began its descent toward the planet's surface, Boulder pressed his face against the transparent section of the hull, those enormous amber eyes finding Marcus in the crowd. The cub raised his paw and deliberately, carefully, smacked himself in the face one last time. Marcus raised his hand and gently patted his own cheek, grinning even as his eyes got a bit misty. High five, buddy. You're gonna do great out there. The transport disappeared through the cloud layer, carrying 3 healthy, happy Cravathi cubs home. Marcus remained at the viewing port long after the other staff members had dispersed, thinking about the unexpected lessons that came from trying to teach something as simple as a high five to aliens who preferred to celebrate by smacking themselves. Sometimes the best way to teach wasn't to make others understand your way, but to understand theirs. That was humanity's real strength, Marcus realized. Not superior technology or ancient wisdom, but the flexibility to see value in differences, to find common ground in celebration, and to recognize that there were infinite ways to express the universal language of joy and achievement. And if those ways involved adorable alien cubs enthusiastically bopping themselves in the face, well, that was just fine with Marcus Chen.